Groton Economic Development Commission. Roll call. Robert Boris, Commissioner.
Bill Groves, Commissioner.
George Mathenow, Commissioner.
Carlos Stevens, member.
Suzanne Ellery, new member.
Excellent. Okay, any public communications?
We have no public attendees online.
Okay.
Which is typical.
Yeah. All good. Approval of minutes from December 1st meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from December 1st meeting?
Yes. The minutes, and I just have a suggestion.
Sure.
Manager from training, and I noticed that you only put your last names as attendees. And for many of us, we don't know who your first names are, and if in 10 years from now, we'll have no idea who all of you are. So if it's possible, I think we should put our full names, and then in the minutes after that, you can put last names or like deep rows or whatever you want. But that's a suggestion. And also, please spell out acronyms. There were a couple I didn't know and I couldn't find. So if you could do that as well to start, that would be excellent.
I love it. I think it's a great idea.
One more comment. There was something in there about the American Recovery Program, but it's the American Rescue Program. So I think we should just change that in minutes if we can.
Okay. Do we need a motion to do that?
No, actually, the way we have done it in the past is when we go to the minutes, we ask for any changes. If everyone had an opportunity, changes, additions, or things, and then we so note the recommendations that are made, and as long as there's no disapproval of those changes being made, then we'll have Lauren update the minutes to reflect those
Great.
changes.
Does anyone disapprove of those? I think they're great.
I think they're a good ideas, so I'm in favor of that.
Okay, great. So we'll make those. Any other additions or comments on the minutes?
And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 1st meeting with the changes that were so mentioned.
Perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Perfect. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay, old business, the matter of the annual report. Mr. Groves used to do that, so now that's in my domain, and we're going to discuss later on the goals of the commission. So I'm going to take a lot of input from the way it was done before and incorporate obviously some of the goals that we lay out and into how I formulate that report and present it to council. So we'll move on to that. Old business, any discussion? Yeah.
I think we all understand this for the benefit of the two new commission members. And in case anyone's listening, I think over time, over history, we used to have a longer annual report, and over time it's been condensed. And I think Bill had previously done a lot of work on that. We always struggled on what the wordsmithing was, and it was more narrative. And the annual report template we've used over the past 2, maybe 3 years is more bulleted and focused on what has been accomplished. And then similarly, it finishes with the subsequent year's goals, which is on the agenda tonight as well. But the long and short of it, the report is fairly brief, just so people can kind of focus on the meat of the material.
Who are they shared with?
There's a requirement in the bylaws that this report on an annual basis be provided to the town council. The way that it usually happens, it gets refined by EDC members. It is, or the finishing touches will be handled by staff, Lauren Post often. It's sent over to the town manager's office, who basically transmits it to the council. There is not a requirement to present to the town council, but we have attempted to do so in the past. So we can kind of get a little bit of FaceTime, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Last year it didn't work. COVID has also made it challenging as well. But I think the ultimate goal has been not only to do the report, but try and get before the council to touch on some key points.
Ever read it and come back and say, we need more or explain anything?
I think sometimes they have asked, there have been some items where council members have asked for the EDC to do a little bit more. But I think generally speaking, the dialogue when it's occurred between the EDC and the council has been good.
The reasoning behind the bulleting and condensing is to have the conversation for that. And we haven't been able to present now. COVID was part of it, and sometimes the scheduling things come up and we fully understand it. But that's really the basis of the bullet pointing is the conversation should be had. Here it is bulleted to you. You have questions or more. We look to the council to give us that feedback. Because all our meetings are provided to them and they kind of know that. So we have, hopefully this year we will have that opportunity.
Have you seen a copy of either of you seen a copy of Bill's annual reports?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So
Lauren had provided
Yeah.
separate emails. I think maybe she combined them in sending it to both of you. Right.
Yeah, we asked her to provide everything possible to give you guys at least something to base your acceptance on, I guess is a good way of saying it, but
other old business, I have the business roundtable. Should we discuss the relaunching of that or what the status is related to? We had discussed following the old business Groton Business Association model, going business to business here. I don't recall if we had set in motion some metrics for that, or we should set up a subcommittee again, or where we, so have some discussion related to that. I know, George, you've been with us forever and you were part of creating those early things. If you want to let the new members kind of know what we're talking about and what ideas we have, I'd be grateful.
And basically, a long time ago, we had a separate entity for Groton Business Association, so to speak, GBA. And that was a independent entity of local business owners that gathered together once a month over coffee, breakfast time, and talk about whatever that may be pertinent to the community or themselves, or if they have a new business that they want to sort of present to the community, saying this is what I do now, and I look forward to your support, kind of thing. And at a certain point, we decided there is too many things going on. We have the Mystic Chamber, the Eastern Chamber, GBA, and why don't we streamline this thing? So that merged with the Mystic Chamber. And somewhere along the line in the scope of things, and Mystic Chamber had many evolutions of its own, and thereby the sort of a focus moved from one aspect to the other aspect. There's also a downtown Mystic Merchants Association that was really independent in this way. So we try to gather everybody here under the EDC's umbrella to have some kind of consensus on what's going on, who, what, where, and what needed, as EDC's role is to be the champion for all businesses, and the advocate for all businesses to the council, and to be advisory to the town manager on where things should be and how we are looking to progress our businesses, municipal revenues and so forth. So what has happened in the last year or so, we sort of figured that maybe we want to resuscitate that whole idea of GBA. It's a sort of a master networking kind of a thing. But unfortunately, I think by the nature of where we are today, post-COVID or amidst COVID, we were not able to truly market or get everybody's awareness and attention on this group's gathering. As much as we put it out on our website, this and that, if there's no eyeballs and people don't talk to each other and bump into each other, there's really no way to create this forum. So I think that's where we are in this new 2023. We need to have a sort of a grassroots level of touch point where we can understand the nature of things that are pertinent to businesses, commercial, retail, or even entrepreneurial level. And how do we get about getting that visibility for the EDC to become aware of those ups and downs and need to maybe even plan for things for 1 year down the road. And so that our staff, who's so excellent, is able to keep a list of things that they would like to project.
So what we tried to do is we try to create once a month breakfasts. People to come together, kind of talk for half an hour and share their problems, kind of discuss the issues they're having in Groton, and maybe someone else at the table has already solved that problem, create a networking kind of event. So that's sort of what we kind of want to discuss, whether there's an ability to resurrect that in some way. And part of that's going to be, I think, when we talk about our goals about like networking with the business community in general, one-on-one when we're out there meeting people. So kind of want to figure out, I don't know whether we should set, if it's too early to set up a subcommittee to discuss that again, or anybody's appetite for this.
George was right on it. And so what I had done the last couple of months is reached out to some of the previous players in the GBA and stuff like that. Al Valenti was our liaison and such. I think he's kind of dropped off, and I'm still reach out to him. I still have his thing, and maybe he can give me some of these input. Leanne Obrey, who was also involved, she did say she would help in just trying to get some of the business people together to take it on, because we really need them to move that group together again. And we would be, what's great for us, and it was great when we had Mystic Main Street liaison, Groton Business liaison, they would come to these meetings and give us things, because we did try these forums, but I think we discussed it. The thing is, we were providing the topics. What we really need is the businesses to be providing us what we should be bringing speakers in for, or such like that. And we haven't gotten to that point. So I think it's something we should still pursue.
Okay.
Do a little bit of the heavy lifting up front to the point where they can take it on. Just like Bruce did with the Mystic Chamber, you know, they kind of revived that after the COVID and have refocused themselves, but but I'd love to get him involved with it too, because we all are one. So to set up a subcommittee, I don't think it's too early.
Right.
Because at least then people are gonna have the conversation is how do we attack this? I'm happy to sit on that subcommittee at this point in time, because I do make myself available during the week to at least have some sessions like that. And I will keep following up with Leanne. She just had a surgery, so I mean, I understood that it wasn't the opportune time. So,
Okay.
yes.
Sir?
I think that the subcommittee is a great idea. This past year, when we tried to do it, it was on the fly. Those who were involved did not necessarily want to do the planning and the preliminary work. Just wanted to kind of throw it together. And we believe that preliminary work is critical to its success. So having that subcommittee who talks about what they want to accomplish, how they're going to get it done, how is it going to, with the venue, timing, all of that logistical work is critical to pulling it off.
Was it last successful? Like what you would say successful, and how many people attended?
The best case, maybe 10, best case.
We had some
Usually
great
about 5.
We would
vibrant
have
conversations.
more than that on occasion.
Yeah.
So I would say 2018, 2019, and the really successful events were where it was held in someplace like a very interesting business. I remember one at the Groton Utilities, and that would have been a good couple dozen people visiting. They got a tour of some of the facilities. So that was really what drew people out. Obviously, we had a core group that would be repeat, visitors, and which was great. We definitely would like to expand, to the entire business community.
I thought you meant in 2022.
I was-
The largest number we had in 2022 is about 10, but the previous GBA model, yeah, they would draw a pretty good crowd.
I think if we were all able to bring one or two businesses there each time, like we all committed to doing that, it would be just that alone would be a robust and worthy event, so.
From the standpoint of the largest we've ever had was the plastics.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a full room. So this is prior to this, is so that the council passed the plastic ordinance. We didn't drive the topic. The businesses drove. That's what going back to when you have a GBA or they give us, these are things that are of interest to us, and then we set it up. And you will have participation. What we found is so when you're putting the topic out there, it's not important to me. So I think that's the root of it. So we have had some, I mean, that plastic ones was a very large turnout. And it was the best brainstorming with people helping each other out and stuff like that. And all we did was facilitate.
Because it impacted everybody, right? So it's the whole what's in it for me, whether it's a venue or free food and alcohol, or the worry about how the plastics are going to impact them. It's got to be a combination.
One I was surprised that we did the 2022 was and actually it was probably with the 10 group is when we did the short-term rentals.
Right,
Right.
Okay.
Topic, right?
They're topics that different aspect of business, but it's still a business to us. It's not a brick, it doesn't have to be bricks and mortar. That's where we need to get to.
okay, so I'm happy to help and energized to help enroll it as well. What's the process of setting up a subcommittee? Do we
May I
motion or?
make a suggestion? But before jumping into creating a subcommittee and having the owners on the board, perhaps the chair and this chair could just meet up with the Mystic Chamber, because we already started that conversation. I've already started the conversation about this GBA. Maybe three of you could just sit and find out feasibility of and leave Bruce from his long list of accomplishments in marketing and promotions could offer you feedback on maybe they could create the subcommittee instead of this body creating the subcommittee. I'm just saying that, just throwing it out, but have what is the right word for it? They use in the service. You guys at the top, so to speak.
Okay.
Just finding out what would be the best strategy out of action. And the board is here, or the body is there, or how often you're going to do it. You need sponsors, or you need support.
I'm happy to do that. Should we do that instead of?
So as a subcommittee, as chair, you can set up the subcommittee.
Here's the language.
So you can bring together members of things and such like that. So you have the control. You can bring outside people into it. It's not something that's voted on by the commission. You just kind of set it up and get a chair to
Okay.
chair it. And then,
Got it.
you can build it from there.
Here's the exact language from the
Okay.
bylaws that enable the EDC chair to create, or the commission may create the subcommittee. The chair appoints the chair of the subcommittee and members.
Okay. Does anyone want to be the chair of a subcommittee on this? Okay, so then if nobody wants to do that, what I'll do first is that's a great recommendation. I will speak to Bruce at Mystic Chamber. We'll discuss that and I will report back tomorrow, next meeting with action, paths forward related to that. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Why don't you set up a meeting with Bruce? I'll be happy to sit on the meeting with Bruce and then we can move forward with. So we do have to make an actual motion and say that we'll set up the subcommittee and then he just handles the.
Well, I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing, I think George's recommendation was maybe not to have the subcommittee and to just have a couple key people from the EDC meet with Bruce. The other option is you formally create the subcommittee.
Right.
And that subcommittee goes and meets with Bruce.
Let's go the path before setting a subcommittee. Bill and I will discuss with Bruce communicating, and then next meeting we'll decide the path forward. Everybody feel okay with that?
I'd like to see if I can invite Leanne to it also.
Sure, that'd be great. I think that, yeah, definitely. George, you want to make that come too?
If the date and time,
Okay,
I'll be happy to.
why don't we throw it open to, I will let everybody know when Bruce is available, if he ready, and then whoever wants to attend that's a member of the EDC can come. Fair?
And also, I know our pace is getting faster from the time that I got involved. Things are a lot more happening more regularly. And we want to just send through the office, the EDC office, send out a report of the meeting or whatever it is, so that everybody can be sort of up to date before the next meeting. So that's not to wait for the next meeting. So at least by then we sort of get our ducks in order. Say, yeah, let's do this or that.
Okay,
I just want to make one point of order, and I hate doing this, but we're obviously an appointed board representing the town in the event that we have a quorum for this type of meeting, we have to post.
Mhm.
So we need adequate time to do that posting. One person, two people meeting would not warrant that, but if
It's all right.
we have a
You have a
grouping of
So
EDC
you
members,
get in trouble.
yeah,
so.
I would say three people, just to play it safe, we need to post the meeting.
So let me recommend this. I have a relationship with Bruce. I'm the chairman of the Mystic Chamber Foundation, 501(c) that's connected to it. So I'll have a conversation with Bruce about this in general. I'll send the information out to the rest of the members and we can discuss the next meeting from there. The idea is, as George presented, given the history of the Groton Business Association and what our vision is, trying to resurrect that and see if we can't work with the chamber in some way of that. Yep. Everybody, okay? We don't need any motions to move on with that. Okay, good. Okay, new business. Very grateful that we have two new members here and energy, and you guys are very talented and wonderful. And I've had the benefit of speaking with you and listening and Bill and Paige as well. I didn't know if you wanted to take a minute and introduce yourselves and talk about what you're passionate about and why you want to jump in here.
Suzanne Ellery. I grew up in Groton, Long Point, and I moved away for 5 whole years when we first started and came back, built a house in Noe. So I've been here for a long time. Yeah, still live right down the street. I worked at Pfizer for 34 years, started as a bench scientist and progressed through 6 different jobs, including 8 years project management. And then at the end, I was the site affairs leader, responsible for community outreach, colleague engagement, community relations, etc. I got involved in Thames River Innovation Places and worked with Paige, and that's why he approached me, because he knows I'm passionate about a sense of place for the whole Thames Valley region, but specifically Groton. I love right up here and love living here now, and I think it's really important for people to come live here. So I'm really passionate about how do we develop spaces for people to come live here that maybe can't afford some of the McMansions that we see around here. So that's where my passion lies.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, Carlos Shativa, work at Dare Mahan. I moved to the Groton area 4 years ago. I've just so you're out there. I used to be a submariner, left worked in the financial world for about 15 years, and then moved up here. The job, as the last 4 years, really kind of developed there as my kind of the area around my home and stay here permanently. And just really want to get something always community service and volunteers, something I've always been involved in, and really just getting to know, having been with a company that started small and hopefully keeps growing. Really want to just see work with other businesses to kind of share the experience of that, because it is I find myself very fortunate to be able to work and live 10 minutes apart. Want to hopefully make it fair in mind.
Welcome, both of you.
Welcome. Thank you very much. And thank you, George and Bill. I think these are your recruits and you got some great energy
No, it's
here.
all Paige.
Yeah. Paige too.
Well,
It's okay.
I think it's a team effort,
Yeah.
so I think that we need more of that. If I could just add, I mean, we, at its full potential, we would have 9 members. We've got one other walking in now. We don't have to have 9, but that's our max. I think we had discussed that we're really we're really seeking to find engaged individuals, professionals such as yourself, that are going to contribute. That's more important in terms of quality than saying we have to have 9 members, because we can operate with less than 9. But having said that, we do have a goal as you're out there and dealing with the community. If you have suggestions, George is always throwing ideas around, which we welcome. We would like to know about it. We would like to grow with more quality people such as yourself.
And things that you're passionate about, speak up. We're going to get into the discussion of goals, and part of that goal, it wraps around the things that people are motivated to do and accomplish in the community. So be really great. Okay, so goals. Yes.
Suzanne.
Susan Down. Sorry, Emily, I had a.
No, that's our newest members, so the newest members, just so you.
Okay, so new business, we'll move on to goals. So forgive me for a second. I know we all know this at the table, but for the matter of record, I just want to read a little paragraph about what we do. So we sort of start on a good framework, and then we can discuss whether I'll agree with that. The Municipal Economic Development Commission is a group of people appointed by a local government to develop and implement strategies to promote economic growth and development within a municipality. These strategies may include initiatives to attract new business to the area, support the expansion of existing businesses, and stimulate job creation. The commission may also work to improve the local business climate by addressing issues such as regulatory barriers, infrastructure deficiencies, and workforce development. In addition, these efforts, a Municipal Economic Development Commission may also play a role in creating partnerships and collaborations between local government, businesses, and other community stakeholders to support economic growth. Specifically, the Groton EDC directives kind of asked us to be the lead representative to other boards and commissions on economic development issues, to be a positive influence always regarding the potential that Groton has to offer, and be a liaison to the business community and a conduit back to the town manager and EDC staff for information and business concerns. So that's kind of the basics, so everyone, the public, and we kind of understand as we develop our goals how to do those things. Does anybody have anything else to kind of input related to that, or that I missed or left out that feel passionately about?
That keyword, that's what I want to talk about. We're the only entity in the town of Groton government that represents economic and business interests. And, you know, there are a lot of environmental groups, whether it be open space, conservation, recreation, what have you, that push their mission and their agenda. We're the only ones for economic, and you use the word passion. We have talked and are at times envious of some of the other commissions and boards, what have you, about their passion. They are out there, they're pushing their agendas, and we're the ones that are to connect with the business community, deal with, you know, macroeconomic growth. We're the only entity that would do that. So I want to make that clear.
Ambassador to the business community.
That's right.
And just before we start talking about goals, one other aspect, I'll just add my sort of I learned it from Bill, and I would kind of push this forward. It's about a sense of place that we're creating here. We're not just, we are expanding the tax base, and that is an important function, but we're doing that by creating a quality of life and a sense of space. And, you know, that kind of pulls everything in as well, like protecting the environment is part of that. So there's not an either or, because everything's a synergy, you know, and I think that can energize the community to come forth and do that in a holistic way, because really that is the driver of growth in my opinion. And I think that's where we've been discussing this in the past. So setting out goals for ourselves in accomplishing that stuff.
Bob, I just wanted to add one more thing, and I'm glad you read that. But it really is an evolving definition. You know, you talk about sense of place. That's not the kind of thing we talked about 15 years ago when they talked about economic development, and now everybody understands that. There's another factor, which is workforce retention. It used to be that you get the jobs, the people you follow, but today, you want to retain the people because they enjoy living there, and then the jobs sometimes will go where the people are, or otherwise the jobs and the businesses have to go elsewhere if they can't get the workforce.
Right.
So the evolving definition would mean really directly what you were saying, Suzanne, which is housing is almost the most important aspect of Groton's economic development strategy, because we have the jobs, we're blessed with those jobs, but if we don't have the housing, it becomes complicated. It's a barrier to attracting and retaining the workforce.
Another word that I talked to you guys about is community, using that word more frequently instead of great, not only sense of place, but community. Why do you want it? Why would you want to live in Groton? What is it so special? How do we make it feel like it's because the community is awesome? Well, how is it awesome? So that, I think that has to be like the education portion of what we do has to be focused around sense of place, community, and why Groton's a great place to be, not just for work, but to live here.
And the other, to add to what you're saying as well, it's not in the world of working from Zoom, we can attract people because of quality of life. They can live here and work for companies across the United States, across the world. So there's a whole, it's a great point. It is evolving, and we do have a lot of natural resources here and things that we, want to accentuate and develop in the right way to attract, a lot of people to come, live in that environment. So, other ideas on how to do that, or what goals we should set for ourselves and move forward and accomplishing this? That's sort of, I'm a data guy, so I like metrics where we can sort of gauge ourselves as to whether something is working or we're achieving things. And I also think it keeps one's attention. You can gamify a little bit. And so
I would like to ask Kate, because I'm from him and the department, how we can support the economic development and department and connect with the business community. We've done different things and worked different opportunities in order to do that. And we interface with the businesses and bring back some feedback to the department, just let them know how business community feels about the support they get from the town. And I think the page very eloquently expresses how we can best support the business community and have that conduit connection with the town.
Earlier in the meeting, we discussed, that's fine, we discussed the business roundtable. And there was reference to the previous GBA initiative that was in its day successful. George gave some history as to how it maybe faded at some point. And then we, with our business outreach efforts, we kind of migrated into this business roundtable. We tried that in 2022 with honestly some limited success. And I think there was some consensus that, actually, I know there's some consensus that we're going to try to relaunch this. Bob's going to reach out to the Mystic Chamber. So if I had to pick one thing, I think there's a nugget there where, we do our thing as staff on a daily basis. What is the one or two or three things that the EDC can do that the staff doesn't focus on? That business roundtable and making that successful, I think, is really important.
If I could just follow up on that, we want to support the businesses, but there's a little bit of an information gap. So the more we know about what businesses need, the more we can make sure the resources get into their hands. But that relates directly to retention and expansion. There are businesses out there right now struggling because of supply chains, inflation, costs, hiring issues. And some of them are probably saying, if I can't fix this problem, I'm either going to close, or I'm going to move, or I'm going to change my, I'm going to go back to my home office, or, who knows. if you're in direct touch with these folks and they tell you, well, this is the problem I'm facing, and you bring that to us and we see a pattern, then we can try to get the resources in front of folks. It creates those types of targeted opportunities like a forum where we can help put on an event where we're going to put some experts out there. They're going to feel like they're going to get something out of it. So when you ask how you can support the staff, I mean, that's really the biggest thing. We can guess and we have sense of the trends. To hear that directly from businesses is really the most valuable thing.
And what affects one business also may affect multiple businesses, so it can be a discussion.
Related, this business outreach, that's a big topic, and I don't want to, we've had that conversation so often. I'm not going to do that tonight. But there are certain things you asked how the EDC can be supportive. I try to think of how the EDC could do something better than the full-time staff. And there are examples of that. There are ideas. Given that we're staff, we can only go so far. We can provide information. We can't advocate freely like the EDC can in the community. And dealing with decision makers, dealing with neighborhood groups, dealing with the community at large, whatever it is, the EDC can do that better than the staff who knocks on the door, so to speak, and says, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help you. You guys could do that better. So the business roundtable is part of that, but the communication with council members, the communication with RTM, neighbors, all of that, I think is something the EDC could do.
So Paige, let me ask you, to expedite us doing that as a goal, would this be an area we set up a subcommittee for business outreach and have an ongoing discussion about that? So we're not going meeting to meeting, month to month about that. We can sort of start to what's the best way to kind of get that in motion? If
We've had subcommittees that have done that in the past. I think that is one way to do it, but ultimately it depends on the people that are involved. Let's say there was no one interested in being on the subcommittee. There's only one person on the EDC that wants to do it. Well, then it probably doesn't make sense to have a subcommittee. So I do think you need at least one person, ideally more than one, to lead that initiative.
in my experience with commissions like this, things can kind of go month to month, and there's rapid action right around a meeting for a week. And then there's rapid action just before the next meeting. So I'm trying to figure out how so we come up with some goals, and then we sort of take some action on that. That's why in my experience in the private sector, like subcommittee groups kind of work through that.
Sure.
But I don't know does that make sense to people? Because it sounds like one of the goals, and I don't mean to finish the conversation. Obviously, we all need to put it, but one of the inputs is business outreach is a pretty fundamental part of this. So having these discussions and working through this.
Bob, if you don't mind, just I would say it has been successful in the past. It was important to keep momentum. People who met as a subcommittee were able to talk about what strategies worked best, as Paige indicated. There is more than one way to do this. Then they could meet back with the group and talk about how the entire commission could get involved somehow, organize the information, and learn from what's working, what's not working.
Like the Tiger teams that get involved and brief back.
I think it's been successful in the past. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, George.
Anybody have any interest in that or thoughts about it? George, you have a lot of experience.
The whole idea of the EDC was to have 9 or more members. And the goal, and choosing the members, the goal then for us was to catalyze ideas for the business community, the JVs, the GBAs. 9 people could do only so much. And the staff of 3 or 4 or 5 can only execute so much on top of what they have to do on a day-to-day basis. So looking at where we can leverage, we can bring together ideas that the business community or business entities and associations will help to deliver for us in partnership. I mean, that's how I look at it. And I think the role, in my of these years, was basically two things, to be honest, or actually maybe three now. How to bring in revenues, how to lower taxes, and how to create jobs. And Paige knows this well, and Sam knows this well. That's been my mantra for over 10 years. And how to retain the businesses. We had an excellent gentleman too, Bill Smith and Rob Frink, who long time ago decided that through various studies, what we should be focusing on economic gardening. And the idea was to nurture businesses like Berkshire's, Pfizer, Yamaha, what they need and how to progress them, what are the industries and what are the resources that they need to make their role and their cooperation and their roots in Groton even stronger. And if Berkshire needs more talents and workforce and that kind of a skill sets, where we can find the resources or do the activities of helping Berkshire. Where Pfizer is looking for more supply chain for where they could collaborate, participate, do R&D or do prototyping, where can we, the EDC, help with that kind of activities, or where the business communities could help with those kind of activities. So this is my the role of what we had or I had was to try and distill what was needed by our local businesses. And they're looking for more revenues, and whereby then lowering our taxes across our community, that makes our community more livable, more attractive. That will bring in more retail activities, more leisure activities, because of low taxation, diversity of programs that we have, that is funded by revenues that we get elsewhere, not from personal taxes.
In terms of goals, with the way I'm looking at it, it kind of makes sense to me if we think about it that we need to build a relationship, collect the information, and then tactics to take action. So those are the two discussions. Like, how do we, what tactics do we have to build the relationship, and what tactics do we have to take the action? Like that's what I would think a subcommittee format would be good at, like discussing, implementing exactly what you said. We can talk like broadly, we understand what we have to do. We need, like, what do we do? Like, and then how can we measure what we're doing? Is it effective? Is it helping? Is it achieving results? Is the
We are
word?
fortunate, we got very talented staff.
Yeah.
Now that we are very, very, I mean, I am very grateful for that, extraordinarily competent, smart, and out of the box thinkers. And we need to help them fulfill the execution.
So
Is what you described, can that be captured under the category of strategy?
yeah, basically, that's what I would, again, not to get locked in the subcommittee framework, but that's what I see, like setting up a subcommittee, people that are involved in that are very passionate about. These are the ways we build the business relationship, more like the, the breakfast that we're having, or knocking on doors, or coming here and saying, everybody should commit to meeting 10 businesses between each meeting, and then briefing it, or just throw those ideas around, then come to here at the meeting and be like, okay, these are the things we agree on them, and then we start to implement them and collect them. And you guys give us feedback as to, hey, that's helpful. That's adding to what we do internally of the staff, and that's value added, rather than us go down a primrose path of like,
And I think you were asking some questions the other day. We have a lot of history about this business outreach that I think it's important to just for us to present what has been done, what has gotten traction, what hasn't, rather than reinventing the wheel.
Right.
No, I'm not saying you would reinvent.
no, but could you do that better to a subcommittee
I
and
think
then
so.
come back?
Definitely.
Okay.
Right. In fact, we've attended typically attended the subcommittees when it's related to outreach.
Got
We
it.
usually have presence at all of them
Right,
as appropriate, but certainly that one in particular.
okay.
And maybe that's an opportunity to meet the two new commissioners too.
All right, who wants to be chair of the subcommittee on outreach?
And just to mention as well, Lauren, who's the technician and does admin support, she's readily helped out by setting up meeting times and reserving space. She usually uses some sort of doodle online poll to find out what works for everybody. So the chair
Right,
would be it would be very informal, and we certainly support that.
but in all seriousness, let me step back. Everyone's professional here and you guys have experience in your own businesses, how things run and managing and getting teams to work. Do people have any input on how, in your experience, it would be good to kind of get to this phase? Do you think a subcommittee on this would be a good way?
We've done subcommittees, and I don't say reinvent it, and we've done different strategies, and I find the best way is to just go out and do it and come back. The main thing that we want is we need the information that you're collecting, email addresses, name, contacts, and then they're kind of your contacts that you go back to.
Right.
So subcommittee's fine with that, because this, if everyone's on the same page, that's the way it should work. We've tried that. Going back to this whole thing, and the one key thing, that passion, I do that naturally, the outreach, but my passion isn't just talking to a business, because I usually hear the same things, and which is fine, but it's community. And so what is the purpose of EDC? And I guess my frustrations over the years, and COVID had something to do with it, but when I first came on, housing, 70% of the people that work in Groton do not live here. And I remember Paige saying, I want it all.
Baby, I guess it's gonna be better.
Well, it could be. I mean, I understand that. So we took a look at all these properties, and it was housing. Now, I've worked with some of the developers, and it's changed where the town council and powers that be are so anti, it seems, that we've turned off a lot of those people. I still think housing should be our primary goal. And the reason why it's our primary goal, because community, and I just kind of jotted it down. Housing makes consumers. Housing makes community, diversity, affordable housing brings in people that can start on the lower run of their house. I like what George said. Blue tech to me is this little golden nugget we have in our backyard that we've talked about. Pfizer, EB, we already played the game of depending on them to be our thing. It's not gonna happen forever. That's the new generation stuff. But why do you want to come and live here? And it's the quality of the community. So do we give the right housing to them? The stuff that around it, because if I'm a business person, this is where I can outreach people to. Don't you want to put your business here? Because I got consumers for you that are looking for this. So outreach is important because I want to hear it from the businesses. Well, what are you dealing with? Employment issues. I can't retain people. Well, maybe some of that is they're driving 25 miles every day, and once they get a job closer to home, they take it. I've seen that. So yeah, it's worth having a subcommittee because that's one of our charges and is our outreach.
Right.
We should be talking to businesses, but I don't think that's what our passion should be. It should be environmentally friendly building housing to bring in all these other things to make it work. And that's where I think we'd have more leverage with the council. I think that's when we might have the council saying, we want you to come before us because you're saying these things, because we're the only group. And now we're actually having a conversation that is meaningful, and maybe people want to come and hear what we have to say at that point. I haven't seen that yet. That's my thought process of where we go with that, because we do have the best staff. I mean, they do recruit the people in. I've seen what they've done of bringing in developers and all this stuff, and a whole nother conversation just overtaken us, and we've been kind of sat back and what are we doing here? That's been my feeling. What are we doing here? New people, new passion that's what I'd like to see this all to develop from.
So you're gonna throw back to the business roundtable.
I already said it.
I think we should before creating another subcommittee, find out from the community what they want to drive, what their priorities would be. We could fossilize whatever it is over here, but maybe that
So
conversation.
what's the best tactic to do that? What action should we take to collect that information from the community?
Start with the chambers, have a conversation with the chamber,
Okay, that's,
have that relationship, find out whether we can create a kind of a synergistic activity together where that will provide us every quarterly is kind of a goal, a strategy, a performance KPIs that we can have every quarter that we can write down. And that will be transferred or shared in town council. Maybe it is housing, maybe it is more promotion, more businesses, more lowering their taxes or cutting, could be everything, different things every quarter that.
what value added would we, just from a collection of information, the chamber already does a lot of that. So other than they would provide a report, we could synthesize that, but what are we adding to from the collection standpoint? So what the
So-
chamber is already providing?
So thus far, we have not done that collaboration.
Right.
It was done years ago in a different era, in a different environment, a different economy. And we did not have that continuity. And I think it behooves us now to engage the commercial sector, the retail sector, to identify what would be. I mean, we can talk about lack of workforce and this and that, yes. Let's tackle what we can tackle.
Right.
Just find out what they are, what's in the list. And
I'm just
then
trying
based
to-
on that creative work
Rather than
committee. Over.
Yeah, rather than duplicating, we just want to augment stuff that's already out there. Do the new members, do you have any area that you have particular passion for related to this that you kind of want to launch into or have an idea?
Backgrounds of both you. I'm sorry, I was like, very quickly.
Yeah.
So Suzanne Ellery, I just worked at Pfizer for 4 years, but I grew up in Groton, and I know it now, so basically been here my whole life. I worked with Paige, met Paige through the Thames River Innovation Places. I was on the board for a few years, and that was all about being a sense of place for the Thames River area in Groton. So we work a lot on trying to create not only like new housing, maker spaces, like the community. So for me, I'm very passionate about the community piece. Community, getting people here to live here, and having been at Pfizer for this time and hearing like wherever people living when they come in, especially right out of college, they're looking for a really affordable place. And there aren't a lot of affordable places here in Groton that are like where they want to hang out, right? It's not, maybe it's for small families, but it's not for the single 23-year-old. So how do we create some community in that?
Attract that
Generation.
generation.
That generation. And the empty nesters, how do we get them to stay, and not go to Florida or someplace else? How do we get them? Why would you want to stay here? I mean, if you don't have family here, why would you?
Personally, about working with Abraham, I've been here for 4 years now, but I was stationed here many years ago. So, you know, and as I've gotten that, you know, lived here now, and you know, growth, and really enjoyed, you know, wanting to see how to get that experience more. And also just, we talked about for other business, how do we get, not people just, different talent to come here, but we have some, you know, a lot of challenges. Not challenges, but we're trying to get the younger crowd getting here, you know, having started in the Navy, you know, there was usually most of the young people I saw were either locals or guys from the base. But how do we get young kids? And we're finding that we're actually having some success, you know, just between some students who've actually gone to Conn College who said, I really liked the area when I was going here. And we've hired, you know, at least 4 of them now, you know, just have software engineers who would say, hey, we want to live here now and stay here. So we always say that's not anything that we brought them over here. The area was already attractive to them. How do we get that to grow and get so we can continue? We want to keep growing, get
Someone wants, so they want to stay here, but what's stopping them from being here? Is probably what you're trying to
Yeah.
say.
and getting there. And also, but other people from far away, you know, I moved here from about 2 hours, right? I think Westchester County, New York. So, and it was really more of a thing, like if having come always up to this area, you know, vacation personally, you know, it was one of those draws here to be able to come back up here again, is, you know, was like when I said we can take a job here. I said, I love the area. But how do you get that to someone who may have never been here before and say, come here, this is a great place? Yes.
Do we have, Paige, I recall vaguely, some small budget in it that we have access to, or is that not something that, we were $5,000, in some way we could have a,
Technically, there is no EDC budget.
okay,
However, anything the EDC needs, we always find a way through the Office of Planning and Development Services to address. So I don't think resources have ever been an issue for the EDC, but there is no designated budget.
okay, I didn't think, yeah, I wasn't sure if there was something that was.
But all of these events, if you guys, I'll just really shoot for the moon. If you wanted to have a business roundtable weekly, we'll find a way to make it happen.
Like to me, I keep thinking business mixer, there's a lot of new businesses or current businesses that are expanding. Just to bring people into.
We could do that.
Space, so they can interact and socialize with each other. And that sort of promotes goodwill among new businesses and existing businesses and expanding businesses.
That's similar to the roundtable concept.
There's so much going on. I mean, it's just, it's exciting, sometimes.
Chambers do something like that, so we have to just make sure we're not stepping on their toes. They do young professionals.
We like
Mixer,
to
they do,
support it,
and then they
you
do
know.
a lot of events. We just would think, like, why would you want to come to ours versus going to the larger one to be people from outside of Groton? So how do we?
I think it's sort of, we're the commission, so I think it's just a little offshoot opportunity versus stepping on anybody's toes, because I think we're all sort of trying to achieve the same goal.
There was
I just-
years ago, back to the GBA concept. The Mystic Chamber was really dealing with Mystic proper,
Mhm.
and GBA filled the void for the rest of Groton. And those events weren't necessarily as big enough for the Eastern Chamber to be interested. We would have an event at Cardinal Honda, Navy Federal, so they were smaller to medium sized, but away from the geography of downtown Mystic and not big enough to interest Eastern Chamber.
And this was something else we did where we would go to local businesses, to their business and meet there, and then have sort of a social. And hear from the business owner or management about that business. So that was kind of to change the sort of the venue, and it included us in the business community physically. I can't remember exactly what we did it, but I know we did that a number of times, and it was really interesting to get to be on the premises of some of these businesses.
So we're 30 minutes in. So this is my logistical question. I mean, we can brainstorm this for hours because it's a great topic, and it's kind of what we'll be successful at is, figuring out the talent that's here and the passion that's here and how to direct the goals direct to that. So does it make sense? What is a good effective way to move forward? I keep going back to a subcommittee here where we could get together, 3 times a week, some core individuals who want to brainstorm and put lists together that we then discuss at our next meeting and implement. Or, I'm not sure.
Yeah, logistically, the way we worked this, and I think we've made actually some great progress through this discussion.
Right.
Logistically, given that you are an official board, there should not be dialogue in between board members making decisions and modifications, but the workaround on that is to use us.
Okay.
I think my recommendation would be for the chair to put something together, maybe a draft of these goals,
Okay.
with a few different decision points,
Okay.
share it with us, give it to us.
Okay.
We will send it out to the EDC and individually ask for feedback from EDC members, and we will basically provide that back to you. That'll help us craft something for the next meeting.
Perfect. How about this? Can we go around the room and everybody give me your top 3 goals? So we can get that. We could just off the top of your head, and this will give us something that if everybody in the room, like you weighed in on housing, which is fantastic. Like, so we have an idea around the table where everybody's in, and that will give you some raw material for me to kind of work with.
Housing.
Housing. George,
Revenues.
revenue. Okay,
So
Yeah.
community housing.
Yeah.
Education and
Okay.
marketing, we have to market.
okay,
I didn't know anything about you guys. Why is that?
okay.
It's my fault, partially, obviously, it wasn't,
Yeah.
everything I was interested in, but.
Yeah.
Page.
I think promoting a sense of place, and I want to just, side thing, add, as we add new commissioners, and I know that John, the town manager is usually responsible for,
Job, yeah.
right? I'm gonna, we, maybe a good idea, like to be in the real estate industry, or somehow bring them into this fold, because I just think that would be a good source of information, and we're talking about housing. I just feel the feedback might be sort of generating a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of ideas in terms of what the needs are. It's just as a.
Say kind of along the lines you said, marketing and almost like an outreach. I know just our office is down in but the airport, and I've seen a few businesses open up in the last few years. Just other than personally going in there and let me get 5 years or like that, I to actually go and say, do you know about the vision, and are you interested in learning about what we love, just to sit in and get to meet everybody and understand, kind of share your experience, especially some who I know started right before COVID, and what your challenges to experience, what we learned. And just, and also the parking side. I know business owners who've been here for 30 years or, close to 30 years, and, they've never heard, how do we explain what's worked for you for the last, couple decades?
That's the outreach.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a long time ago, we would have people say, well, tell me what to say in the interview. I said, it's not an interview. Well, give me the questions I'm supposed to ask. I say, well, here are some basic questions, but it's more of a conversation, building a relationship, and the information you're seeking is information you don't know yet. Tell me your challenges, tell me your opportunities. How can we help you? You're on a mission to learn. That is the outreach.
I would just add, mine would be affordability and a sense of place. That would be kind of the goal we should, I sort of think it's a driver for everything. Okay, so should we,
I don't know that, you share your.
Revenues.
Oh, revenues.
George is all about the
Share
dollars.
revenues. Sorry, George.
okay,
That's
move on to,
important. Not to say like one thing about Pfizer is when people say, where should I live? People often say, go live in Wesley or Pawcatuck or New London because the taxes are less.
right,
Or go live across the border in Wesley because but we're can't find anything around here. So it has to be affordable. So
yeah, and I think affordability, puts all the elements in there, if your services are providing value, then, that tax revenue is, that tax expenditures makes sense. When you that it's not just cutting taxes, it's about making it, the allocation correct, that creates a good balance. So
Interesting statistic. Some of these goals, so to speak, are they're codependent. So I'll give you an example. We need housing, and I can share the housing reports with the new members if you haven't seen them. We need a lot of housing, like thousands of units of housing. And because we don't have an adequate supply, rents are higher than they ought to be, and the quality of the housing is lower than where it should be. So the housing component, that's a supply and demand that affects cost. George, to your point, the housing that we have put in the pipeline that we anticipate will be some of the top 10 taxpayers in Groton. Case in point, former Sealy School. It's not yet to be built. We're anticipating that's going to be over $1 million a year over year with annual taxes. So the housing and the revenue generation are actually hand in hand.
thank you. Reports, Chair,
I'm sorry, I mentioned that Leanne, okay, call, thought she could Zoom meeting, I said I'm doing Zoom. Going to,
Okay.
We are on Zoom and the link is on the website,
so she can.
Town of Groton. Yes, actually Paige, you,
I had texted her earlier. Yeah.
okay, reports, Chair report. Thank you, Bill, for your leadership in the past few years and your help and mentoring me and helping get me up to speed. This is my first time doing this, and thank you very much. Well, I had a good, very patient staff and former chair. So, and thank you for staying on and guiding the ship to its crash. I appreciate it. Also, then I just want to acknowledge Paige and Sam for identifying opportunities and winning the $8.5 million grant from the Connecticut Community Challenge Program. And I'm sure you'll talk about that in your report. And that checks all the boxes we talked about before: housing and sense of place and transportation and capital improvements. And so it's really fantastic. It's been said before, and at the risk of sounding pandering, we really have a great staff. And we do know that. We want to make sure the EDC is doing right by you and synergizing with all the things you're doing so that the community understands that, and we can kind of get positive attitude in here and sort of exponential growth in a good way and improve the quality of life for that. Let's see, at the last meeting, we agreed that I would notify Councilor Franco that we decided to table the recommendations for her vacant property program. I did that. There was some discussion about how Councilor Franco had a objective of addressing properties that had laid vacant for a long time. Yeah, and we just, with our staffing issues and things like that, we just didn't have the resources and bandwidth to do that. And I think as we've identified previously in the discussion of goals, we're kind of focus on regrouping and recasting, and then we can address something like that in the future. So I let her know that was the situation. And I just encourage new members, if you haven't gotten your business cards yet, get them. We have them, and get out there and meet businesses and start the process of building those relationships and things. And thank you very much for being a part. I'm grateful, and also being patient with me as I figure out how I can kind of marshal all of our talents to get the right direction. I'm very appreciative of that. So staff reports.
Sure. Thank you. So we provide this report every month. I try to read off some highlights, and actually my report incorrectly does reference ARPA as American Recovery, but it is true. It is the American Rescue Plan Act. But anyway, that has been ongoing for a while for us. Some funding has been allocated previously. Where we're at the moment, the town council asked for supplemental information from the remaining applicants. There are over 50 applicants at this point in time. All told, the requests are over $7 million, and we only have 2.5 to 3 million for this particular round. So it's highly competitive. January 17th at the cow meeting. Sorry, it's not a bovine. It's the committee of the whole.
Committee of the
Whole.
whole,
Yeah.
this COW? Or
H-
WHOL.
Yeah. So it's a little, I'll admit, it's a little confusing. Basically, you have the full council. Originally, the committee of the whole was intended to be maybe a smaller grouping, but typically most of the council want to be a part of the committee of the whole. So for all intents and purposes, the council and the committee of the whole are one. But typically at the committee of the whole meetings, you have more dialogue and conceptual discussions. And they kind of come to a consensus, and they allow an item to advance to the town council for the final official vote.
on a working committee, so to speak.
Yeah. Anyway, January 17th is when they will address the responses that they've received to all the applications. Okay,
So they're gonna go through all 50 of them or 60 of them?
this is a long process, but a while ago, there was actually a committee that the council had appointed separate from the cow. It was called the Long-Term Recovery Committee. And they did the original review scoring, made a recommendation of the cow. The cow said, well, we want additional information from all of the remaining applicants. So that's where we're at right now. So they've always had the ability to look at the full application, but they had specific questions at this time. So it's the responses to these specific questions that they will deal with next week. Actually, not next week, but January 17th. Community Challenge Grant. First and foremost, I want to make sure that we give, proper kudos. Sam wrote the grant, and it is a team.
I had help.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
he's the point of contact. We all work together as a team, but putting it all together, Sam did a pretty heavy lift on that. We, for a year now, had been looking at the program, and we passed on the first round. We weren't ready. It required partnerships with private entities. So we literally had, I don't know how many meetings in the other room and trying to figure out, first of all, where's the area? What's the target? Who are we going to talk with to see how they're going to move their project forward and be able to commit their funding to make this attractive? And we did apply for $9.8 million for the Pequannock area. We ultimately did receive 8.4. Now, where we're at this point, people have been asking us exactly what is it? We still don't have the agreement from the state, and we anticipate that by mid-February, and we'll have a few more weeks after that to execute. So it's that agreement that will actually give us the details. But in short, we'll have some public amenity improvements, boardwalk, sidewalk type work, housing, both affordable, but also market rate. So we're going to know pretty soon how that's all going to shake out, but it's a significant, actually, it's the largest award in the state for that particular program to date. We were envious of New London, and they've done some great things in round one, but we actually exceeded New London's award. So we got a pat in the back from them as well. We work in tandem, and we're really happy to be kind of bookending the fames. In terms of marketing, Sam and I attended here comes an acronym already, the ICSC conference, which used to stand for the International Council for Shopping Centers. And that's as written in the report. They've changed the name actually about a year ago. It's now called the Innovating Commerce Serving Communities Agency, same acronym. We were down in Manhattan, and we consider it to be productive. A lot of meetings. We're busy. We have a table. We had scheduled meetings, people that impromptu meet with us. We had consultants that would set up meetings. Groton's definitely on the map, and it's our job to present opportunities. I think we do it pretty well. A lot of follow-up afterwards. We're still getting follow-up. Great to meet you in New York. What's up with these properties? Give us more information. So I think that is a sign of success. Okay, thanks,
I
George.
apologize, I have to get across the street.
Good to see you. Was there opportunity for us to talk to others there to learn what they're doing in their towns? To become.
There are a few municipalities that actually attend these. Is that what you're asking at the conference?
Did you get a chance to talk to others to see what are you doing? Like, can we steal ideas from others? Other towns, what are they doing?
Of the participants, I would say certainly less than 1% are municipalities. This is a deal-making type conference. And we're really in the minority. It's not a governmental thing. It's totally private sector.
Can you give me an example of a conversation you had around deal making?
Sure. So we have our table with our Explore More iPad running, and literally think of it as speed dating. Someone comes up to you and says, I'm a New York developer. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you have for me?
Ah,
And you have 30 seconds to make an impression. Other times, you know that the next day you have a 1:30 appointment with a broker who is looking for housing opportunities anywhere in Connecticut. And you have to explain to them why Groton is so great and the housing need and what you can do for them. Others are marketing people that want to sell you their product or their service. Co-star, like listing type of companies. It's deal making on a private basis, and there aren't typically municipalities that are there. I don't know why, and there should be more, but they're not.
An annual,
Well, they do one in the summer in Boston. The largest one in the Northeast is New York City in December. The largest one in the country is in Vegas, which we'll never go to, I don't think, but there are actually several nationwide. Shoreline East Rail Feasibility Study. I want to be clear about that. That it's a feasibility study. I think a lot of people get confused. They want to know, when is that station going to be built? Next year? It's not going to be built next year. However, the great news, it was held at the Subforce Museum on December 15th. Preliminarily, it was all positive news that it appears as though it's looking great for the project. There were no promises on timeline, but they believe they've got the numbers, they've got the infrastructure. They're trying to find ways to make this happen. In the state's legislation is specific reference to a train stop in Groton, likely down, basically behind. Yeah.
Where's your house? You're right behind it. Not my backyard.
Pizza area, or it could be behind CVS. The car wash on the other side of the tracks is actually on the map, but those are just examples. It's that general area they would be focused on.
then the mystic, stop.
Well, that's Amtrak.
Oh, okay.
This is commuter rail.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Shoreline East. And the goal is to connect basically New York, Shoreline East to the Rhode Island line. So what you're basically going to do is connect New York to Boston, because the MBTA comes all the way down almost to Kingston, Rhode Island, and they're going to come to Westerly. So we're pretty close, pretty exciting, but there's no timeline on implementation just yet.
Off topic a little bit, the scheduling between Metro North and Shoreline East, are they gonna? You can be able to take a train all the way through, you're gonna have to.
Did a good job when Municipal was added. I mean,
I think that's the goal. That
yeah.
this is at 50,000 feet
Yeah.
at the moment. They're not to that level.
You can fix all that.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic page.
I'll try to do it tomorrow. if
Get a
not
gold
tomorrow.
star.
I expect that.
I see why they wouldn't do that. I mean, they did it for London and Old Saybrook.
Oh, yeah.
They're also looking at doing a spur up the river, one side or the other, up to Norwich.
Mhm.
One side, they want their time coming up on our side, on the subway side, right through the base, and possibly putting a station. Museum.
Because you have there's a rail there, right?
Yeah, on either side of the river, there's rail.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. What is it, like the Wyoming and Genesee?
Yeah, it was an old
line?
commercial line,
It's a freight line.
freight line.
Who actually owns these tracks?
The Shoreline East track and the Northeast corridor behind, like the big Y, that's owned basically by Amtrak.
Is it leased by Amtrak or owned?
I can't,
Yeah, but who's the actual owner that Amtrak leases it from, you know?
Amtrak's like the post office. It's a United States government entity that our tax dollars support, but they have their own control over the stuff. So
but basically for the operation and management of a commuter line, they have to negotiate with Amtrak.
Amtrak, yeah.
Amtrak has first position on the track.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, just moving on. We work with a consultant called Nava Retail. They actually go to these ICSC conferences and work with us. And they've recently done a hotel analysis, which is really interesting for Groton feasibility analysis. I think the quote from the individual who did it, the numbers are better than any other community he's dealt with over the past few years. Think about it. Our hotels and motels, for the most part, are old. I'm not talking about downtown Mystic. I'm talking about Groton as a whole. They have not generally been upgraded. We only have a few newer, moderately priced hotels. The largest demand he sees actually is for extended stay hotels. He's pretty excited about that. He's already out there marketing to national companies touting Groton. We will have that report. He's doing the final touches on it. We'll make it available to the public, and of course the EDC. But just wanted to share that news. That was in the past few weeks.
Do we target 184 for that?
It's included.
Because that's really, I mean, the newest one is in the Hilton Garden,
Mhm.
but there's a whole, you know, if you ever travel, there's usually a stretch of
Yeah,
that type of thing. And what a great avenue for it to be, because you're right off of 95, you're centrally located, and you're kind of off the traffic line that people all complain about. So, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to divulge too many details, but I
asked the
agree.
question.
I
You guys
agree.
are on it.
And I think there's some redevelopment opportunity. What I was really gonna get at is, it's easy for developers to target undeveloped land. I'm trying to get them to focus on some redevelopment as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a redevelopment. The gardens, Hilton Gardens was redevelopment, wasn't it?
What was there before?
I don't remember, but it's, there's always been a mishmash of stuff on
Yeah.
that section of 184, so.
Yeah. So coming right off of the community challenge grant, we're moving right into community investment fund. And Sam is the point of contact, putting that one together. Actually, there are two. We're indirectly supporting one. That's the TVCCA, the Thames Valley Council for Community Action. That's the daycare facility. That's in the Midway Oval area. And they're going to be submitting a grant, I think about 12 million for the construction of a new daycare facility. I think it was like 145 seats, I believe. And so we are indirectly supporting that. We are directly submitting a grant proposal for the former Pleasant Valley School for the demolition of that and the site remediation and the cleanup. That'll be over 3.5, I
Right.
think. So all told, we're in excess of 15 million. That's due tomorrow.
That's right.
So we've been busy on that front. Cross your fingers. There's, for the new members, we have a lot of public property redevelopment. I carry these projects. Months ago, they were active. Most of them at the moment are not, but we're hoping for them to be re-energized. And each one has their own story. Case in point, Mystic Education Center. You're aware of that.
What about the little ones on off of Fort Hill? What are all little small buildings? What's the thought for those?
Town buildings.
The governor's court one. Yeah, there's like, there were 5 of them that were listed in your report of possible, like 154 Hill Road and 50 Depot Road and 1 Governor Circle and 65 Governor Circle. Like what's happening?
Those sounds like those were involved in the community's challenge grant application. So as Paige said,
Those are private, right? Those aren't town owned, are they?
No.
Governor Circle is Grasso Gardens.
Oh,
Yeah, across the country.
So we had requested funds to help support additional construction of affordable housing in that area with the Grasso Gardens, and as well as market rate housing and other privately owned properties. So as Paige said, come mid-February, we'll get the agreement back from the state and we'll find out what exactly is going to be funded, and we'll negotiate that with the state.
these properties
Yeah.
on this, on the second page of the report, these are typically former governmental properties, like Mystic Education Center, state-owned, Groton Heights, town-owned, Gold Star Highway, town-owned, former Sealy School, town-owned, Colonel Ledyard School, town-owned, Pleasant Valley, town-owned. So these are former school buildings or campus properties that we try to repurpose. And like I said, each one has their own story. And let's just say at this point, most of them have not been advancing over the past few months. But we're trying to. Colonel Ledyard is the only one that is advancing, and they are still working with the City of Groton's Planning and Zoning Commission and the Wetland Commission to move forward.
So they were going to convert those into apartments?
Colonel Ledyard, yes,
Okay, and the thought is we do the same for the other schools.
not necessarily. Many of them are housing. I would say, 80, 90%, but not all.
We've been hearing about the Clodchester School. Was there?
Clodchester, there was a charrette process months back, gaining public input. I was hopeful that there'd be more economic interest with that building, whether it be daycare or business incubator or something like that. The public desired basically athletic fields and aquatic center. So at the moment, actually next Tuesday at the council meeting, there'll be a presentation on that topic.
Oh, really?
And Chad Frost will be presenting the latest concept plans for active recreation at that site. How it's going to be paid for, including the demolition of the building, yet to be determined. Might be interested to see that meeting.
I think so, yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I have for the new members. I don't typically go through this, but there are social media metrics. And
I joined.
excellent, okay. And I usually add some unemployment data statistics. That was important, particularly during COVID. It's a lagging indicator. So we don't even have the Department of Labor's statistics for December. We only have November.
So it's trending down.
It has been, yeah.
Good.
Yep. That's all. Long report,
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you very much.
sure.
Okay, so then we go to liaison reports. So, and can I just ask, would it be okay if we adjust the minutes so that the actual each liaison is listed there?
Just
Just
listing on the agenda.
yeah, just on that. Yeah, exactly. So that I just put it in parentheses so that it's a town council RTM, all the. I think, would that be more clear?
You saying on the agenda or the minute?
On the agenda.
On the
So,
agenda?
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So the
Yeah.
liaison just spells out
Okay.
who all the liaison who have the authority to brief
Mhm.
are there. I think just
That liaison and then name of the liaison.
then not the name of the liaison, the entity, like
Right.
the
Okay.
RTM, because I just think that the public will then understand. Yeah. So that then in the minutes, if there's nothing there, they know that those groups have the space to come and talk and.
Yeah.
If everybody agrees on
Yeah,
that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good call.
Okay. So with that said,
There you go.
sir, you're up.
Thank you. We like to come to these meetings, as you were talking about quality of life. Having a good quality of life in Groton, in London, and all the other towns around here is really vital to the subbase because obviously some of our sailors and all our civilians and contractors all live in these communities and have happy employees or productive employees and it's easier to attract, easier to retain, if they're happy and sometimes so. The Marines always, I think, the conference and Marine General was saying they like to recruit the Marine but retain the family. If the family's not happy.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard to keep the Marine in service, and that's certainly the same thing with our sailors, so. So anything that we can do, and first of all, we'd like to keep you up to date as far as what's going on in the base. Just so you kind of know what's, how active we are and things like that, these changes. But we also like working with, just different activities or things that you're trying to do, so. Sorry I didn't get your written report. I was on vacation last week and it's been crazy since I got back, but I did scribble a few notes if I can keep my own writing. we first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. Hoping for a really great productive New Year at the base and without any conflict. Of course, always don't want that, but lots of interesting things are going to be happening. We had two great homecomings that happened. Actually, just Tuesday we had the Newport News come back from a 6-month deployment. It was 33. They traveled 33,000 nautical miles, so they went to some places. And I guess they visited Norway, Scotland, and Spain. Kind of interesting. And they got the award. They called it the Battle E Award, which is they were basically the top performing submarine in their squadron. So it's kind of exciting. 39 of the sailors actually earned their dolphins on that trip, so very productive. We also welcomed back the 18th of last month, the USS South Dakota came in from a 5-month deployment, and they only traveled 30,000 miles.
That's all.
Sure. Yeah, they stopped in Norway. Sure, they went many other places, and as you know, we don't know where they went. They went places. Obviously, they traveled 30,000 miles. Probably need an oil change by now. But they had 20 sailors become qualified on that trip, so that was very productive. Couple of weeks back, almost a month now, I don't know if you heard on the news, but Subbase Fire Department helped rescue a resident in Ledger that fell down a well, some 30 feet. It was kind of a technical rescue, so that was kind of an interesting thing that you took part in, and it was a little award ceremony up at Ledger a while back for the folks that did that. So that was
Is the person 100% covered?
yeah, I don't think it really got hurt, just got a little hypothermic and banged up and stuff, but yeah, somehow they fell down as well. And it's just not an easy thing to get them out, right? That's how, obviously I wasn't there, but I heard a couple stories about it, so it was interesting. Let's see what else we have. USS Oregon was the first sub to actually be moored at our new Pier 32, which was kind of exciting. So that's all up and happening. That was that's a $65 million project. We got a whole new Pier 32, which will serve us great for the next 30, 40, 50 years. All our submarines up to the Block 4s, which are ones that are in use now. The Block 5s are the new generation that are coming out. They're 90 feet longer. We actually need some longer piers, and those are in the works. We're going to extend our Pier 31 probably next year or two, and that will be able to take the new Block 5 subs, and then we're also going to build a new Pier 8, probably 5 or 6 years. So lots of investment by the Navy and the base. And we're also redoing our weapons compound too, recapping that. So hundreds of millions of dollars of investment.
That's great.
So
That supports our community.
it supports everything.
Yeah.
And it also means that we're staying. Right?
Yeah, great.
They're investing so much money in the base that
Okay.
yeah, it's when they tried to close us several years ago. So yeah, so we're
I remember those breaks.
yeah. I wasn't involved back then, but it was a big deal. Yeah, so we I think we're pretty important now. Nothing's going anywhere. So that's good news in town. And I just handed some information on the Municipal program. If you're interested in taking one, there's an info sheet, single sheet that just kind of talks about it. And then there's a multiple page sheet there that has actually all the awards from the last several years listed. So it might trigger some ideas. What you can apply for.
I'll leave these here.
Yeah, if anybody wants it. And that's all available online as well. If you want a copy, but it's one shot copy, but it's a great program. Last year they got, I think it was $80-something million, and this year it's went to like 118. So we're not quite a bit. So they'll be able to fund more projects. I don't think we've ever gotten an award here for that. So we're due. And my predecessor, Adam, right, pretty well remember, is actually in charge of that program.
Adam.
So not saying that that's going to help us in any way, but certainly could help. I actually put a call on him today and asked him a couple questions, so.
Tom said hello.
Yes, no, you love him. Right? Always speaks very highly of the town, well, all the communities around here, so. So I haven't listened to any questions, right?
No, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
So I think we're interested in this program, but I want to be clear that we don't make the decision on it per se.
Right.
I was going to recommend that possibly we have a meeting with the town manager and the Navy, whomever, and then just have a meeting of the minds, find out. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm very happy to do that.
That'd be great.
Chat about it and. Yeah, I mean, I think just go through the list of old awards, because that can give you some ideas of the kinds of things that they like to award. It's standard firehouses, community centers, you name it, as long as it benefits the town and the base. I mean, you know, the whole idea of this is the base does cause the town to, you know, to spend money into development in ways that it wouldn't normally have to develop, right? We're bringing in a lot of people in different, you know, different bands, submarines, all, and we can affect the town. So this grant is, main purpose is to help you, counteract that, help you manage us and to be able to be good neighbors and help us out. So that's why they have the grant. And daycare.
There were some events during the summer that I was talking to some sailors that transportation, getting to events, like they had the run at the beach, the city beach.
Yeah.
And is there anything being worked at that? Like between the base and this town, and how to improve that and get sailors to be able to participate more in some of the kind of activities around town? I know that not everyone has a vehicle and
Yeah, I'm not aware of any program, we don't have a bus service or anything like that on base. I think there was one years ago, but we don't have that anymore. The town has a certain like public transportation.
Right.
I think dial services, but
is there any other community that use some of these funds or anything like that related to transportation for?
I didn't see that, and I'm not sure that this funding is really to provide hard infrastructure, so like a bus station,
Right,
for example, but it wouldn't be, I believe, appropriate to run the bus.
right,
It's for like hard, if we needed a bus station.
Right.
Or transportation center or what have you, that.
Okay.
Help from that.
The train station in Groton.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I threw it out there, but so building a daycare facility,
yeah,
Absolutely, and
would be, because we know that's another one of those loud and clear community things that.
Yeah.
There's a huge demand for in this area, huge.
Hmm.
But does Naval Subbase have their own daycare facility?
we have the Child Development Center, which, is pretty good size, and the problem we have is like. So it's
Yeah.
it's like everybody has the same problem.
but so let's say an individual, a resident at Balfour Beatty's properties, can they bring their child on to the base for that daycare?
I believe it's. I don't know if it's open to the general public. I know it was open, like I could bring my child there if I wanted, because I work on the base,
Exactly,
but I'm not sure if it's open to the general public.
right.
I think you need to have, because I just know some of the, if you are military and have the pass to get on, then you're entitled to it. Is that?
You have to pay for it. It's not free.
No.
It's actually outside the gate.
Oh, it's outside the gate?
Yeah, it's over by the hotel there, the Navy, Lodge. The Navy Lodge, it's over by the Navy Lodge. Yeah, it's like industrial road, it's on the left.
I don't think freeze the issue. The issue is they don't have facilities actually to do these things. And
Right.
there are companies saying, yeah, we would
Yeah, TVCCA,
see, yeah, so.
there's a significant waiting list in town.
Yeah.
For
There's
daycare.
also community, the youth center, I guess we call it, on the right side of Route 12 going up, which is very popular as well. Any kind of facilities like that, that could benefit both the base and the town with some kind of need. Yeah, that's what it's for.
I do think the path forward is to have a meeting between the town and the Navy and kind of brainstorm a little bit. And I know Bob Ross from the state has always been involved in that as well. So I think a meeting of the minds and hopefully can find some priority and something that would compete well.
A makerspace. for people to go.
Hmm.
We don't- do we have one in Groton?
No, I don't think so.
Some in New London, but there's nothing here.
Right.
See, we're also applying for a grant through the thing, organization of LBCC, up to local events. Don't like acronyms, don't get involved with the Navy. Everything is an acronym. To this day, I don't know 1/100th of the acronyms in the Navy. But we're applying for a grant to, it's actually gonna be for Groton Utilities, mainly, to get some final plans together to harden electrical feeds and replace water mains and bays and things like that. So once we get, if we get that money, which we're hoping we will, and that project gets done in the future, we'll maybe be able to apply for one of these grants for that one. Because that would be quite appropriate as well. So it obviously benefits the base and it benefits the whole community. That water main is used by everybody up in that town, same with power. That's something we can do in the future, but you know, those kinds of projects are good too. A couple of years ago, well, actually, I think it's still happening, right? Just finishing up, you replaced or rebuilt the sewage pump station at the end of Crystal Lake. That would have been a great project. If you know, I'm looking to see if we can even apply.
Even
effectively for that.
it wasn't federal money, but we went after Port Authority money, actually they call it ship money, to do the Nautilus dock.
Yes.
We landed, it was about 840,000 in state money that actually came to the town
Yeah.
to build on federal property.
Yeah.
That would have qualified.
We did, which is, yeah.
How about coastal resiliency? Is there any way to allocate any of this funds to some of those projects we have around town?
It can be, it can be linked to this, somehow linked to the sub base and the town. If there's a beach or an area that's eroding that could cause damage to some critical facility that is needed, you know, a water treatment plant or something like that that's used by the sub base.
Right?
That would be a good project. And certainly, if you go through that list, you'll see some things like that. Shoreline stabilization projects,
Right?
you know,
Airport.
all those kinds of things.
Definitely have a meeting.
I see when I hear about them adding a runway at Manhattan
I-
Regional Airport.
Yeah.
Airport.
What, the reason I think the meeting's really important beyond the obvious, we have listings of projects that are not funded.
Right.
So it's not a matter of getting together and say, hey, let's brainstorm an idea.
We got,
There are projects that don't have money. And I think it's important to,
just go down the list and see if it fits in the bucket.
Exactly.
And then start to.
that's the starting point.
One thing is it has to be shovel ready. You know, 'cause once you get the money, you gotta be able to jump on it, you know.
Shovel, right?
There's been a year or two. That's the hard part.
Many of the
Right.
projects, though, our public works department's really good and, you know, take the Nautilus dock, for example. When we applied for that funding, the designs were, I don't know, 30% complete or so. They needed to
Right.
refine. Public Works has other preliminary designs, but haven't taken it to final because we lack funding.
Define shovel ready by the government standards.
There is no definition.
Again, it has to be able to be executed quickly. You have to be able to prove to them that it's not gonna take 3 years to get permits and all that, which.
So it's private sector if it's ready, not
Yeah.
government stuff.
Yeah, no, it's gotta be something that's ready to go. And that's why we're doing this resiliency grant. You know, at the end of the day, we want to have plans. So we're ready to go with plans and estimates that we can just, you know, go for other grants and say, look, we're ready to go.
And 30% matching,
It's 70%, yeah, they only pay
Make sure you
70%.
have-
I mean, that's still.
70
30% match.
Oh.
So yeah, they.
The town or
70 is
somebody
good.
has more than 30%.
cash or in kind, any fraction of that?
match. We usually in kind, yeah, it's fine for.
You can
partner,
Venmo.
With some exceptions for rural communities or national projects. Yeah, it doesn't say on here, but you know, town staff will probably do some of that. I mean, I don't think you're gonna 30%.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
Any other business? Okay. Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
second. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody.